What's going on, guys? Back again. I'm going to do a little quick video here. Some of you guys requested, you were wanting to see a comparison between this UEI, what is the number on that, the CD100A combustible gas leak detector that I won from good old Zacky boy over at Tradesman Shop Talk. And I'm not going to do like a side-by-side comparison with it and the little red Chinese one that I did the other video on. I mean, I'll put a link below in the comments to that other video if you haven't seen it, but I'm just going to kind of show you basically how this one works. It's not a bad detector. It does come in a really nice, kind of like an over-molded case there. If you take that gray case off, you know, you're just left with a little cheap-feeling plastic instrument, just like the other Chinese detector, but with this gray case on. This thing actually has some weight to it. It feels like a more expensive instrument. I think this thing runs somewhere around the like $125 range, and the little red Chinese one is like 30 bucks. I can say just from the testing I've done so far, they are basically the same detector. There's not a whole lot of difference. They operate the same. And you've got a little wheel over here on this side that we're going to click it downward. And we're just going to kind of let it warm up here for a second. You've got the green light indicating that you do have power. The red light over here, the LED, is going to be, you know, once you found a leak, that thing's going to blink and tick like that. And then the tip of the wand has kind of got this dinky little red light on it. But I mean, if you are in a dark space, it does kind of light stuff up a little bit. So it's somewhat usable if you were up in the, you know, if you were up there like in the floor joist or somewhere in a dark spot trying to find a leak around a coupling on some hard pipe, that is going to light stuff up a little bit. But just like the other detector, once you turn this thing on, you let it warm up for a little while, and then you adjust this wheel to where you're just kind of a slow tick rate, about once to maybe twice per second. If you get too fast like that, you're going to be really, really sensitive. You're going to be picking up all kinds of false readings, stuff that's going to throw you off, and you don't really want that. So I'm just turning this wheel over here just slowly, getting that tick rate right where I want it, and we're just going to kind of simulate a leak right here on our incoming side of this valve. We'll check it right now, and we're not getting anything. Right here's a little bit of pipe dope. That's not setting it off. Over here's some more kind of fresh pipe dope. That's not making it go off. So let's go ahead and do this. With my instruments like this, whether it's one of these or whether it's a refrigerant leak detector, I'm always going to test it. I'm going to prime that pump a little bit, and I've got my little gay pink lighter here. I know Zack had his pink cell phone case there forever, but I've got my little pink lighter. I keep this in a little soft carry pouch, and I keep the lighter right there with me. So every time before I use this, all I've got to do is just give it a quick little bump, and it will go off. And you can't really see it, but there is barely any lighter fluid in this whatsoever. There's just a little driddle down in the bottom. So if this thing is going to go off with me just barely letting a little gas out of this lighter, then it's definitely going to find a gas leak. So see, I just barely bumped it. So it's a good idea to do that. That way you know your instrument is operating and performing the way it should. You're not going to be out there looking for a leak with a broke instrument that ain't going to find nothing. So that way you know you're working, and we're going to let that thing slow back down. The recovery time on it's pretty good. It doesn't take that long. So now we're down there to our tick. Now let's take our handy dandy little wrench here, our VMI HBR5, if it'll focus on that. That's the little wrench you guys want, man. That thing's on Amazon. Get that thing for, I don't know, it varies between $14 and $18 usually. But you can see that I've just got a little 1-inch bit in there that is the same size as your port on the gas valve. That's like a 3/16, I believe. And that gets me in all those real tight spots. So I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to loosen this just a little bit. And we'll just play around with it here and see how small we can get this leak. See, we still don't really have anything there. Let me break it loose a couple more threads. We'll try that. See, now we're starting to pick a little something up. Very, very small leak. Very small. So now I can turn my sensitivity up just a little bit because our tick is slowed down. Right there, let's get 2 ticks per second. Now let's try this. Very small leak. See? There we can tell that we have something very, very small. So that is a tiny, tiny little leak. And now let's try putting some of the Snoop bubbles on there and see if that's even going to bubble. That's so small. I doubt that will even bubble. Not really. So you can see that even with soap bubbles, we wouldn't really be able to pick that up. There was one tiny little bubble up at the top that popped, but you really wouldn't think that is leaking at all right there. But then the detector found that. And I have tried it, you know, with some soap bubbles, and the soap bubbles don't really seem to set it off too badly. Let's just kind of pat that dry a little bit, and then we'll go back up here with the detector one more time. So there definitely is just a very minute amount of gas coming out of there. Let's go ahead and just crank it open a little bit more. We'll go ahead and create the kind of leak that probably will soap bubble. Let me see if I can smell that. I'm not even really smelling it quite yet, but we're going to try it right there and see what it does. Yeah. So we definitely got a little something there. Okay. Okay, so now let's try a little more soap on that thing. still not really leaking it. I can't really smell it with my nose. It's not leaking very much at all. The threads still have it sealed pretty good. Those caps can be pretty loose and still not leak because of that pipe thread. And this is good leak detector, guys. Some of you might be saying, if you put Big Blue on there, it'd be bubbling by now. I doubt it, because this is just a tiny, tiny little leak. Okay, now we're gonna get some bubbling. I still don't even smell that too bad yet. I don't have a strong smell of gas coming out of there. But now we've got bubbles, if you can see that. There's a bubble up there on the top that just popped. It's hard picking those little small bubbles up with a light. Getting it just right on the phone. Oh well, I'm not a professional videographer. I'm a dude sitting on a bucket in front of a gas furnace showing you how a tool works, like it or not. I have to say, if I had to pick, I would pick the little red Chinese one over this one. This one's okay, it's not bad. But I think my little red one would be fine in that. There goes our bubbles. Alright, so there we are. Now we've got a pretty significant leak. And there we're going off. There we go. I kind of think the little red one would have picked that up a little quicker. Just in my experience, I think it is slightly better than this one. This one does work. And you can see that the Snoop definitely works for you guys that were thinking the Big Blue would have done a better job. That stuff bubbles like crazy. The viscosity on this stuff is fantastic. This is just about my favorite leak detector. I really like that. And of course, what's the difference between what I just did and if you would have done that with Big Blue? Who can tell me what the difference is, what we're not seeing? We're not seeing a freaking puddle of soap bubbles dripping all down in here and dripping off all these wires because you had to spray it out of the bottle. Now granted, if you put it in a dauber and you just put it right where you want it, it's not as bad. But if you're using the spray bottle, man, you got to get everything soaked. I put that nozzle right where I wanted it, and I put the tiniest amount of that stuff on there, and look how good that's bubbling, guys. Let me get the light just right. It's bubbling like crazy. But I definitely think the little red one's got a slight edge. It would have went off by now. This one's a little slower. It definitely does work. There's no disputing that. I've got the rubber band on there to hold this wand on there. There's a clip on the side of it that's worthless. It will not hold this wand. The wand comes loose, so when I store it in my case, I just have that rubber band on there. But this wand is pretty long. Let me open it up here so you can see it. As I drop my phone on the ground. So anyway, there is the wand. It's pretty long. It stretches out there. It's fairly stiff, but it does not stay in this thing right here, so you're going to have to keep a rubber band around it. But we'll go back over there one more time. So there we go. That's the UEI CD100A combustible gas leak detector. It does work, but I can buy 3 of the little cheap Chinese ones for the price of that, and I think the little red one works slightly better. But there you go. That's using it on a joint. Some of you guys wanted to see that, so I just thought I would show it to you. And let me show you me putting my cap back nice and tight so I don't leave this furnace leaking. The wrench works fantastic. If I was going to buy something, I would buy me 3 or 4 of these little things instead of that leak detector probably. But that is the VMI Tools HBR5. It's got a 1/4 on one side, 5/16 on the other side. Comes with that adapter socket that you can use for 1/4 inch sockets on there. I keep that on one side, and then I keep this on the other side. So anyway guys, there we are doing a little demonstration of the gas leak detector. I really appreciate Zack and everything he does for the HVAC community. If you guys haven't checked out Zack's channel, be sure to do that. He's got the Skilled Trade Up game show that he does, and the channel is Tradesman Shop Talk, and have a lot of fun on there. Have a chance to win a lot of great prizes, guys. So if you're not subscribed to Zack's channel, be sure you go ahead and do that and get in on some of these fun drawings, and you might win yourself a tool like this. So anyway guys, I appreciate you watching. Like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.